Hi, great. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to one of our nerve centers here at the MTA as we monitor through over 15,000 cameras activities on the MTA. It's one way we keep our riders safe and our employees safe. I want to thank Gianna Lieber, the chair and CEO of the MTA, for his stewardship of this incredible organization, the lifeblood of our region, but also during these more difficult times when funding that we used to count on has been stripped away. Also very fortunate to have the greatest police commissioner in our nation, and that is Jessica Tisch, who's really just stepped into a role that was so essential when we started seeing crime rates that were just absolutely unacceptable, and has really done a masterful job in terms of calming down the situation, in terms of public perception, but also being there with an incredible team that reports to her to keep us safe every single day. Just want to say a couple things because we looked at what's behind us here. And as we look at one of our objectives is keeping New Yorkers safe, this is how we do it. We have a bird's eye view of what's happening, and we have a very heavy focus on our subways. We've surged NYPD, working with the city to help cover the cost of overtime over the last couple of years. Deployed officers over on the overnight trains, which is, in large part a reason some of the hotbeds areas where we've seen a lot of crime in the past have declined precipitously. We installed 33,000 cameras. You heard me talk about this. This was my goal just a couple of years ago. I wanted it done, and now we have them on every single subway car. And we've added platform barriers and LED lighting. We're going to continue doing that just to brighten up the experience, which gives this sense of more security, but also it's more of a deterrent to would-be wrongdoers as well. And these efforts are starting to pay off. You cannot argue with the fact that this summer, the months of July and August, we saw crimes hit record lows, lowest in recorded history, safest summer on the record in over a decade. But as we know, we'll all say this, one incident is one too many. Just a couple days ago, we had a horrific attack at a subway station in Brooklyn. A reminder that we can never let up when it comes to safety. Now, let's focus not just on what we're doing, but what the federal government is doing to us. And in a stark moment of hypocrisy, the federal government is literally threatening our ability to keep these operations safe. As our ability to protect public transit riders becomes compromised. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem is trying her very best to slash $34 million in funds that is essential for security on our subway systems. And this is a person who swore an oath, as we all did, swore an oath to protect Americans, and is truly abandoning that. But I want to be very clear on what is happening from Washington. They are defunding the police. Full stop. They cannot argue with the fact that there was funding to help the police, protect our communities, and the federal government without justification, no rationale, other than a punitive gesture to punish blue states like New York. But here New York is very unique. Of the 21 regions that have applied for this funding, the security funding, New York is the only one that's been denied. So this is not hyperbole. This is not exaggerating. This is the reality. We have been singled out. For 20 years, Democrat and Republican administrations have funded these essential dollars. It supports police patrols, security cameras, canine units, and cybersecurity measures. It bolsters security along Metro North and the Long Island Railroad as well, two of the busiest rail systems in the entire nation. And now Secretary Noem wants to claw back every penny. And I say this, it's reckless, it's dangerous, and it's illegal. So what we have here is an opportunity to stand up. We are standing up. I've written, I've cajoled, I've asked. We're in court literally at 11 a.m. this morning. We are in court to defend our rights. Thank you, Attorney General Tish James. But we shouldn't have to battle this out in court. We truly should not have to be in court over something as basic as providing security for our systems here. And I don't need to repeat this, but clearly Washington doesn't understand that when you're assessing applications for security grants to fight terrorism as well, and you put New York State at the bottom of the list, New York City, the bottom of the list. We are the #1 terror target in America, not just back to 9/11, but the countless cases that are thwarted by the work of the NYPD and our Joint Terrorism Task Force. Those don't make the headlines, but we are safer because we have invested dollars from the federal government and the city and the state together. That is what they're jeopardizing right now. Our safety has been compromised. So we live to that fear. We do not ever want to see a repeat of it. That sense of anxiety and insecurity still pervades many of our lives. And I just want to ask, Secretary Noem, how do you weaponize the federal government against a place like New York, against federal workers as well? How are you playing political games with our lives, the lives of people who call this place their home? And just last week, this is a trend. Just last week, Secretary Noem attempted to cancel $187 million in counterterrorism grants. I wrote to her, made our arguments, called the president, and soon after our call, I'm very pleased and I thank him, the president reversed course and announced plans to restore the funding. Now, I need that again. I need that help again. We need to get this money restored. We need this right now. And I will say this, I disagree with the president on many, many issues, in fact, most. But there are areas where we should be aligned. And when people say that they're pro-law enforcement, the wearing of the blue, and yet they're willing to defund our police, it's hypocrisy, and it must be called out. But it's not just that. It's critical infrastructure projects, $18 billion, and 15,000 jobs on the line because of the abrupt cancellation of federal dollars for the 2nd Avenue subway and the Gateway Tunnel. And the Gateway Tunnel is not a vanity project. It's a matter of life and death. If this tunnel cannot be built to replace the aging, compromised tunnel that we have that was damaged over a decade ago at Superstorm Sandy, then we are compromising people's health and safety, not just in our region, but the entire Northeast. We also have to make sure that we focus on other members of Congress who have some clout. Let's talk about Long Island Congressman Andrew Garbarino. Now, he's on the right committee. I actually served on the Homeland Security Committee as a member of Congress, so I know these grants very well. He helped us. I will say he stepped outside of his party and helped us, had the guts to break out of the ranks and helped us add his voice to our calls to have that $187 million restored. But this affects his constituents. His riders on the Long Island Railroad will now know that without these funds, their ride is not as safe as it should be. So I'm calling on him to weigh in as well. Use your voice. In fact, all 7 Republican members of Congress who call New York home, find the courage that's been missing to stand up for the safety of your own residents and stop the defunding of police in the state of New York. So otherwise, you sacrifice the mantle of being the law and order party, which you're not. You're not the party that backs the blue, and you have to start acting like you actually care. So don't be hypocrites. Help us out here. Larger issue is what is happening to our nation with this unjustified government shutdown. Republicans need to provide health care to Americans. It's a basic human right, and we're going to continue these fights. But a subset of all that is this blatant attack on New York simply because we elect Democrats. There's no other explanation. Look at the states that they continue the funding for these projects. Are they more at risk of a terrorism attack? Texas? Florida? Nevada? Give me a break. This is New York. We need the support. We're demanding that it start being unleashed immediately. Thank you very much, and I'll turn it over to Jana Lieber.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you for sticking up for New York, for sticking up for the MTA, and for everything you've done to promote safety in the transit system. We're here in the Situation Room, as the Governor said. This is the Central Command Center where all the security cameras that you challenged us to install in stations, also in subway cars. We have it on all the buses. This is our nerve center for that. And historically, it's also been supported by the federal government, as you and I were just discussing. This is an area where the federal funds that are being torn away from New York have actually made a difference. And the governor topped it out with the emphasis she's placed on it. But it makes absolutely no sense to tear away support for something that has been so important and under your leadership has become even more successful. Now, we are here to talk about the threats to our transit safety agenda, and the governor has made that her top priority in dealing with the MTA. But I think that it should also be looked at in the context of the progress that's been made. The camera coverage and everything else that we've done, platform barriers and so much else under Governor Hochul's leadership, has allowed us to knock crime down by 10% just this past summer. In the last 4 weeks, we're down 30%, as all of the investments that the governor has made and the investments that have been made together with the commissioner in NYPD deployments have borne incredible fruit. And the bigger picture is that compared to pre-COVID, everybody forgets, but compared to pre-COVID, subway crime is actually down by 12.5%. So thank you, Governor. Thank you, Commissioner, for all you have done to make those positive stats possible. This is what customers want to see. And satisfaction with subway safety overall has been trending upwards. We're up 14% this year, just this year, to almost 70% in our most recent monthly poll. So this is no time to step away from what has been a very successful effort under Governor Hochul leadership and in partnership with Commissioner Tisch and the NYPD to make the system actually safer and to make it feel safer. We can't tolerate any actions that cause us to lose ground in this incredible effort to create a truly safe subway environment. And it makes specifically no sense that the federal government spins all kinds of stories about subway safety and then turns around and withholds the money they are supposed to be contributing to that effort, which is really a pittance compared to what these two leaders are contributing to the subway safety effort. But it is the federal government's obligation, and to pull that money away that funds actual cameras and NYPD and MTA PD operations seems nuts. Now, I know that we always acknowledge that we have a ways to go on perception of subway crime and the reality of subway crime. We had an episode just this week that obviously disturbed all of us. But I am thrilled to see the continuing and passionate commitment that we get from the state level leadership and especially from the NYPD leadership as we continue this very successful march forward. Thank you. Commissioner Tisch.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor Hochul, for your unwavering support of the men and women of the New York City Police Department. Today, the NYPD stands with the governor, with the mayor, and the MTA against this quite troubling decision by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security to withhold the federal transit security grant funding from New York City. The Transit Security Grant Program was created in the wake of 9/11 to assist municipalities with hardening transit systems from the threat of terrorism. Over the past 18 years, we have consistently used these funds from this grant to support deployments of counterterrorism officers into New York City subway stations, tunnels, equipment rooms, tracks, and train cars, explosive detection canine capabilities with dogs trained to find explosives and chemical, radiological, and nuclear weapons, mobile explosive screening teams with officers and equipment to screen passengers' bags at entrance points, suspicious activity behavior recognition teams with undercover officers in the New York City subway system, heavy weapons teams for a visible presence during rush hour to deter attacks, as well as subway cameras that the governor and Jana were referencing that give our agencies the ability to monitor, to investigate, and examine threats in real time. The fact of the matter is, since 9/11, The New York City subway system has been a persistent target. And with the support of the counterterrorism grant programs that I just articulated, the men and women of the NYPD have done an admirable job keeping the system safe from terrorism. Taking these capabilities away from the busiest and therefore the most high-threat subway system in the country is a profound mistake. Counterterrorism operations and public safety in general cannot be politicized. Funding cannot rise and fall based on partisan whims. Last week, the president, at the governor's request, reversed a similar decision by Secretary Noem of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security to withhold a different pot of counterterrorism funding from New York. At the time, we said that that funding was the difference between a city that prevents the next attack and a city left exposed to it. I want to be clear that the same is true for the Transit Security Grant Program. These programs funds are the difference between preventing the next attack in our transit system and a transit system left exposed to it. My hope is that the governor's clear calls to reverse this ill-conceived funding cut will be heeded as well. For the millions of people who ride and depend on our subways each day, these critical resources must be restored. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We'll take any on-topic questions, just a couple.
All right, let's start with Samantha Liebman over there from New York One. Sam, you have a question?
If you don't get the funding, what are your options?
We're in court right now. We hope to be successful in arguing that this is arbitrary and capricious, that the money is part of a grant program that we've come to rely on, and we hope that the judge will rule in our favor. So let me see how that unfolds before I would announce any other developments.
Can you quantify how many plots against the subway system have been stopped with this funding?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this before. To my recollection, there have been 8 plots targeting the New York City subway system since 9/11.
All right, we got time for a couple more. We're tight. Stephanos Chen right there from the New York Times. And if we can get the lights back on, that'd probably be helpful.
On the status of the last week's money, $187 million, President Trump has said that he did not agree with that, but what is the actual status, and does that mean that that money is still on its way to New York?
We're expecting that money. I will also say that when I made my phone call to thank the president for unleashing the $187,000, I had just learned that we lost the $18 billion as well as this $34 million. So in my thank you call, I also raised that we desperately want the funding for the infrastructure projects and the security funding restored. And he said he would look into it. That's all I can disclose from a conversation.
All right, Michelle Kasky from Bloomberg right there. Go ahead. Don't worry about the mic. We're all close.
Hi, thank you. So the $34 million that you're saying that is being withheld right now, that is separate from Tish James's lawsuit, correct? Because that's a different that's a different program.
No, she's filed multiple lawsuits. The one that we're in court with today, and I'm willing to be, 11 a.m. this morning, is related to the $34 million. So that's occurring right now.
And $34 million is for 1 year?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right, we got time for one more. How about Jake Offenhart's right here from the Associated Press, AP, right over here.
All right.
Hi. For the police commissioner, on the subject of standing up to the federal government, I wanted to ask about all the deployments of National Guard troops that we're seeing. Have you been having these conversations about New York City's plan? If we see a deployment in New York City, will you tell the NYPD not to work with them on things like immigration enforcement?
We'll count that as an off-topic, but I guarantee you'll be talking about that another day.
Yeah, it's
I knew
sort
you'd
of
try.
on topic
Well,
adjacent, but
nice
not
try.
quite there. All right, we got time.
You don't want to answer it at all?
No, we're
No, I
moving
think the
on.
question is, let's focus on this. We'll be absolutely addressing that in another forum if that happens.
Okay, last one then, Alfonso Castillo right here from Newsday TV.
Hi. Maybe slightly less on topic adjacent. On the topic of the federal government funding the MTA or intervening in the MTA, this week the White House's Presidential Emergency Board has been meeting on the Long Island Railroad contract dispute. I'm wondering if January you could talk about, give a sense of how it's been going and whether it gives you any more or less optimism of a resolution that would avert a strike on the Long Island Railroad.
Pretty off.
It's off. Do you want to take it or
Do you
no?
want to take it, Jana? Yeah,
you want me to?
no, go ahead if you want, but
Okay.
it's ongoing negotiations.
Yeah,
I don't,
it's
I don't
actually-
comment.
It's literally ongoing.
Yeah, I don't comment
It's
on ongoing
this week.
negotiations. We want to get it
It's literally
settled.
ongoing this week.
All right, it's
All right.
ongoing. We can't discuss it.
All
That's
right.
it. Thanks,
All right.
everybody.
Thank you
Really
very much.
appreciate your attention. Thank you.
Thank you.